We are recording, I think. Yeah, we are. Chapter 4, The Five Men God. Go ahead, Mahu. You were eager to read, so please read.
Oh, I forgot I actually volunteered. Okay, I'll do that. All right. The five God men, the five men God. The world is ruled at all times by five men who are God realized, perfect in all perfections. Each was daring enough to dive to the bottom of the ocean of conditioned existence and claim the pearl of truth, the possession of which gives one all knowledge, all love, and all power, and return to the shore of the world and guide and direct men with a compassion that is ever living and vigilant. As each finishes his term of office, he drops his body and is replaced by another man god or perfect master. Periodically, when the darkness of man's pain obscures completely the form of the divine beloved and brotherhood has been forgotten and careship of the earth laid aside, the five cause, the divine, indivisible substance of reality to take human form and manifest again the glory of truth. Relight, relight the fire of love in men's hearts and give intellect fresh purpose and direction. The five this time were Babajan, Sai Baba, Upazni Maharaj, Narayan Maharaj, and Tajuddin Baba. Almost invariably, the perfect masters have male bodies, but this time one of them, Babajan, was a woman. Babajan was born in Baluchistan between India and Afghanistan of an aristocratic family. As a girl, she ran away from home to escape marriage and became a wanderer. Eventually, on a mountain near Rawalpindi, she met her master, Malusha,
Maula Shah.
Mawala Shah, Mawala Shah, and stayed. Oh, I didn't know Mawala Shah was her master. Okay, and stayed with him for 6 years when he gave her the realization of her own perfection and brought her back through the 6 planes of conditioned consciousness to exercise it in the world of forms. Because she said once that she was God and that the world had been created by her, some Baluchi soldiers, page 16, buried her alive, but many years later, some of them saw her in Pune, 1,000 miles south. They implored her forgiveness, and she, being the ocean of mercy, forgave them. And they and many others from their regiment, the 127th Light Infantry, as well as many drivers of the 13 Mul Corps of the new Madihana, Pune became her staunch devotees and would gather round her in the evenings. The place in Pune where she made her seat, because she herself in the very beginning of things had chosen it, as the place where she would receive the avatar that would be, was under a neem tree on a bit of vacant ground in Khan Bahadur John Mohammed Road. Here, she prepared her share of the preparation for God's descent, and in time received him, and in timelessness awakened him to himself. In the meantime, thousands had come to recognize something of her divinity and came to take her darshan, that is, to bow down before her in love and reverence, submission for remission of the burden of unenlightenment, or just to find fresh courage to endure the drag of days. She was small, with delicate features, and 100 years had covered her head with gleaming snow. Someone said, if you see only a bundle of clothes and a face, you are looking at yourself. If you catch but a glimpse of her greatness, you are on the way to God. The sun and the wind and the rain adored her, and she refused to deny them her darshan by moving under a shelter some of the people built for her. For it was the sun that sought shelter at her feet from its own burning, and the rain had to obtain her permission before it could fall, and without her as their home, to where would the winds return? But on one occasion, the wind and the rain, while lashing the city for 2 hours, stood up from her seat, leaving it dry and calm. This was recorded in a letter by Major S. Hormuzji, Indian Army, retired, to the Pune Herald, 7th February 1967. After mentioning that he used to see Babajan about the vicinity of Charbudi in 1904-05, when he was a student at St. Vincent's High School, he writes, in August or September 1907, there was a terrific hurricane in Pune, followed by very heavy rain, which lasted for 2 hours. All the place in the vicinity of Garubadi was converted into a lake. I was sitting on the Islamic school veranda with Munshi Abdullah Subhan Rajab, superintendent of the school, and Munshi Dat Maya, headmaster. When I went out, I saw Babajan under her favorite neem tree, but there was not a drop of water on her, and the ground around the tree was quite dry. Hundreds of people had gathered to see this miracle. Although it is 60 years now since this occurred, I shall never forget it. But later on, because the shelter built for her had been built with love, she graciously moved under it. Sometimes she walked to Bond Garden, some 2 miles and back, surrounded by devotees, and the talk was full of smiles and gaiety. She was most caustic with men who called her mother, telling them in the in the coerced language, that their sex was inverted, but at the same time implanting in them the seed of true manliness, the longing for real darshan, and endurance on the road to the beloved's door. Baba once said that she was the emperor. He also said that in a previous birth, she had been Rabia of Basra.
The recording is now rolling.
Hmm.
Go ahead, Meher. You'll have to unmute first, though. Maybe unmute. Yeah, there you go.
Baba once said that she was the emperor. He also said that in a previous birth she had been Rabia of Basra. Sai Baba was the head of the five, the masters of masters, the wine seller to the wine sellers, Sakhiul Irshad. He had his seat at Shirdi in the district of Ahmednagar. Nothing is known of him before his realization, except that from nowhere he went to Kuldabad near Aurangabad, where the perfect master Zarzari Baksh gave him the glory, the love, and the power which were his from the beginning of things. He begged food from 5 houses and also oil for temple lamps. Although his name shows that he was a Mohammedan, okay, he begged food from 5 houses and also oil for temple lamps, although his name shows that he was a Mohammedan. This endeared him to the Hindus. Consequently, he had followers from both religions, and they amounted to many thousands. He showed openly that he was everyone and knew everything and performed many miracles. For the most part of the day, he sat with his close circle of disciples while the bhajan and khawal, Hindu and Mohammedan singers repeated God's name or sang of love's states, passing around at times a pipe for each one to take a draw. You upbraid me for having spent my life at the master's feet. Ah, but you do not know that they are my shade from the noonday heat. Life goes on, but in the going is a snare, in which the anguished soul cries, oh, where, oh, where? To you, I waste my time, but time has already wasted me. Now I wait, and the waiting is also His divine mercy. From all except the poor who came for His blessings, He demanded whatever money they had, leaving them only with their return fares, and He would distribute it among the needy. Every morning he went in procession with band music to the latrine. There he would spend an hour, during which time he would bring under his surveillance all the stars. This was routine and easily done, for at the time he created the universe, he had given infinite thought and care to all eventualities and possibilities. Now there was only a touch here and there required to keep it all going smoothly. His great work was that the other four masters, prevailing upon the avatar to take human birth again and investing him with the garments of those attributes which the world would be able to recognize and love. And in preparing the heart ground of humanity for the new love it was to receive. I will read it. His great work was with the other four masters, prevailing upon the avatar to take human birth again and investing him with the garments of those attributes which the world would be able to recognize and love, and in preparing the hard ground of humanity for the new love it was to receive. The last year said Mehrazad. Beloved Baba once referred to him affectionately as grandfather and said that no one had such eyes as he, so luminous were they.
Thank you.
Raj was born Kashinath Govindrao Upasni. Kashinath Govindrao Upasni of Brahmin parents. From an early age, he loved God and preferred worship and listening to the stories of the saints and the discussions of the pundits to playing with the other boys. At 12 years of age, he left home and wandered about, starving for the most part, until an older fellow wanderer, noticing him going to the front door of a house to beg, told him that he would never get enough to eat at front doors. Go round the back to the kitchen, he said, where the women servants' hearts are the more easily touched. After some time, his father sought him out and took him home and arranged a marriage for him. But his girl wife died within 2 years, and he was free to wander again. When he was 16, his people arranged another marriage for him, and again a third, but they could not make him settle down. And he obtained his father's and his last wife's permission to follow the scent of longing wherever it led. At one time, it led him to a cave near the top of a mountain where he subsisted on leaves and roots. Coming down again, now but skin and bones, he fell into a steep gully from where there seemed no way out. He accepted death as inevitable and as no loss, for if a man has not found his divine beloved, he is dead anyway. With these thoughts, he let his eye wander up and down the sides of the gully. He noticed a small tree growing out from a crevice, and beyond it a ledge. Almost unconsciously, his mind registered that if he could swing over onto the ledge, he would be able to crawl up the rest of the way. Gathering his remaining strength, he grasped a branch, drew it back as far as his strength could draw it, and catapulted onto the ledge. There he rested and then slowly made his way to the top, where he lost consciousness. At this point, a shepherd boy came along and, seeing a lifeless skeleton, ran home and told his father, who went with him, and together they carried Kashinath down. When he returned to consciousness and had drunk a little soup and had enough strength to speak, the farmer said, "We saw you going up the mountain, but that was about a year ago. Surely you have not been there all that time." Kashinath said, "A year ago, all that time, I have been nowhere else." The farmer and his wife nursed him back to health, and people from all over the district came to bow to this man who had come back from death. His powerful body restored to strength, he resumed his wandering. One night, he went down into a cellar underneath a shrine, and it was filled with light. Some people who saw it spread the news that he was a saint, but he knew that he had not yet reached that exalted station. Even if he had, it would have meant nothing to him. Either realization of the deathless eternal self or oblivion, nothing less. A friend advised him to go to Sai Baba, but he said, "What have I to do with a Mohammedan?" He went to Kedgaon and paid his respects to Narayan Maharaj, who gave him something to eat, telling him to chew it thoroughly. Then he said, "I have painted you as no one else has ever been painted by me, meaning that he had prepared him fully to receive the gift of himself. But he had to go back to Sai Baba and square his account with him and receive the gift at his hands. He took leave of Narayan and after some time came to Shirdi for Sai Baba's darshan. That master said, "Why have you come?" Kashinath replied, "To have your darshan." The master said, "It would be better if you stopped wandering about and stayed with me." But Kashinath didn't wish to. So Sai Baba said, "All right, you may go, but be back here on the 8th day from now." Kashinath said he would not promise. If he was to be back, he would be back, and left. By the 8th day, Kashinath had described an aimless circle. Sai Baba said, "So you have come back as I told you to. For years now, my nazar has been on you. In fact, everything you did was done by me. Now stay until I have given you that which you are to be given." Kashinath stayed in the small temple nearby and continued to starve, for starving was his share of the world. In the beginning, a restaurant keeper, impressed with his powerful personality despite his emaciated body, offered him a daily meal. But God did not like this interference with routine. It was Kashinath's share to starve, not sit down every day to a sumptuous repast. So he caused the man to do simple arithmetic. And the next day, when Kashinath came, the man began complaining that business was very bad and he would not be able to feed him indefinitely. He would be happy to do so for another month, after which Kashinath would have to go somewhere else. Kashinath said, "Why for a month? Why not from now?" And pushing aside the half-finished plate, got up and walked out. He did not bother to seek food elsewhere. One day, the master sent him a meal. He put it beside him, for when one has been without food for a long time, one is in no hurry to eat. A dog came and started eating it, and Kashinath drove it away. Later in the day, Sai Baba came to see him and said, "I came this morning to share with you the meal I had sent, but you drove me away." The manner of Kashinath's realization was thus. One day he was sitting outside at the back of the temple when he heard heavy footsteps approaching and then two gruff voices. One said, "I know he lives here." And the other said, "Are you sure? He doesn't seem to be anywhere about." Kashinath looked round out of the corner of his eye and saw two giants. He started to creep away, but one of the giants spotted him. "Ha! There he goes. Catch him." They strode towards him and seized him and broke his head open and emptied out his brains. And his soul sped to the sun, went through the sun into space, which is the shadow of reality, went beyond this and became reality itself, absolute knowledge, power, and bliss. After Sai Baba had poured the ocean of truth into that drop that was Kashinath and brought him back from the ocean into the dropness of every drop of creation, the new perfect master did not take leave of his master immediately, but stayed on in the temple to await the coming of the avatar and his work with him. For that was the place laid down in the beginning of time where that work should be done.
Narayan Maharaj, like Dnyaneshwar in earlier times, who was a child prodigy in spiritual things and played miracles as other boys play marbles. Narayan's childhood was spent in golden innocence. He was born into a Brahmin family in 1885, 9 years before the birth of the Avatar. He lost his parents in infancy and was brought up by a maternal uncle. While still a child, he left the house one day and remained untraced for 7 years. During this period, he met a woman whom he addressed as mother. She accepted the honor and in due course had the boy's thread ceremony performed. Later at Gangapur, which is reckoned a great place of pilgrimage for devotees of Dattatreya, he met an old man with an exquisitely radiant face, and he attached himself to him. One day, this man told him to go and beg food from some pious householders. On his return, the old man had disappeared. Narayan resolved not to eat until the beloved stranger came back with his own hands, and with his own hands gave him some of the food. For 3 days and nights he sat under a tree waiting, calling, addressing him as his guru, the source of his life, the goal of his journey. On the third night, the old man came back and expressed his complete happiness with Narayan's devotion, took a morsel of the food, and gave him the rest to eat. As he ate, he saw that the stranger was Dattatreya himself. That glorious one then made Narayan perfect in his own perfection of knowledge, power, and bliss. He went to Kedgaon, some 30 miles from Pune, where his kingship was acknowledged by thousands, and he was called Narayan Maharaj. And he remained there. One of those who came and paid obeisance to him was Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth, who desired to be his servant, which desire he graciously granted. It is not often that a perfect master permits this goddess a place in the train of his servitors. Rather, they make her feel and tell others that her finery is rags, her gold tinsel, and her pearls paste. But Maharaj gave her a place of honor, for mastership of illusory wealth was the role he had assigned to himself when he laid out the stars and poured gold in seams in the earth, made all manner of precious stones, and sewed the seas with pearls for him to wear now.
The recording is going again.
Tajuddin Baba is said was a soldier by profession and a Mohammedan in religion, until the words of God-man, when he was called the apostle of himself. We returned from the lesser war to take up the greater war. Struck home, and he left the service of arms and sought the service of some master's feet. Who this was and where he met him is not known, but after his drowning in the ocean of power, knowledge, bliss, and the master had brought him back to the shore where men go about their affairs, not knowing that the ocean is also for their drowning and deliverance, he went to Nagpur, which was then the capital of the central provinces, where he waited the time of his part in bringing the eternal Ancient One again into the world. In the meantime, he gave his blessings as the sun gives its warmth and light to all who came to him. He had an area marked off in squares, each containing a different blessing, such as better health, a child, promotion, and each suppliant was directed to stand in the appropriate square. When all who were to receive this sort of blessing had been blessed, Tajuddin went one evening naked to some tennis courts of an English club and was promptly picked up and sent to a lunatic asylum where he stayed for 17 years. At one time, he was given laboring work carrying dirt in an iron pan on his head. But the iron had more reverence for him who was the Lord of dirt and stardust, with metal in between, than did people, and it would not touch his head, but stayed above him in the air. When news of this adoration was given out, great crowds came for his darshan, until a local ruler placed his palace at the master's convenience, and he graciously accepted it. The chapter 5, the preparation. Oh, are we continuing? No. All right.
What
Okay.
if
Go ahead, Rosalie.
The preparation of the place where he was to be born. Baba once said that each incarnation of Avatar is preceded by a minor incarnation, which prepares the way for his advent. This time it was the warrior king Shivaji in the 17th century who, with his sword, swept clean of an oppressive Mohammedan rule the land where Avatar was to take birth, and which would become the hub of the wheel of his world work. Shivaji's sweep extended from Daman and Karwar on the seacoast to Nagpur, with Pune, then a village, becoming his capital. Incessant wars waged with mercenary armies had laid waste to the countryside. The peasantry was hunted down, the women and children and the livestock carried off, and the crops burned. The peasants who escaped took to banditry. The commander of the last army to pass through Pune had all its walls pulled down and the area plowed over with a team of asses to show his contempt for the people. But Shivaji's steward, Dadaji Kandadev, came and plowed it with a gold plow drawn by pure white axes,
Oxen.
And gradually the men came back out of the forest and hills, rebuilt their houses, and sowed their crops again. And commerce and learning flourished, and it became a great city. His guru was Ramdas, one of the 5 perfect masters at that time, and he deeply loved the poems of Tukaram, who was another of the 5. His feats and exploits became legendary, and he is still loved and revered by the people in that area today. It was within this sweep that the 5 men god of our time took up their stations for the bringing down of God-man into the world again. Baba's disciples were astonished to hear that their master had once been Shivaji. So he showed himself to them in Shivaji's likeness, and they all were convinced.
Wow. Mm.
Marcia.
Marcia, okay. 6, his parents. The father this time of creation's father was Sheriar Mundigar, who was born in 1853 in the village of Khorramshahr in Iran, where his father was the poorly paid keeper of the Tower of Silence, to where those of the Zoroastrian faith are taken at death to be consumed by vultures. The boy's mother died early, and he was taken care of by his sister Pila. He had no schooling and played by himself much of the time at the place of his father's work. At 12 years, he left home and led an aesthetics life for 8 years, when he briefly returned home and then left Iran and went to India, accompanied by his elder brother Kodadad, and continued his life as a dervish for nearly 10 years. Kodadad had no liking for a monk's life and got work. Later, he returned to Iran, but visited his brother many times, and as time went on, began to recognize who the son of his brother was. Even at 80, as a mark of his respect, the horse cart seat to Nagar to bring him to the ashram.
Marcia, excuse me, I'm sorry. I just want him to be able to get to work. Okay, I'm there. I'm on that page. If I can just, if
Go
you,
ahead.
if I can share, I'm so, where? Let's see.
Make
No, I
Betty co-host.
have to be co-host.
Yeah. Eugene, you have to make Betty co-host.
Oh, all right.
I'm sorry, Marcia, but I just want to honor his. I want you to be late to work.
Go
Okay.
ahead, Betty.
Okay, close. There we go. Share. No, it's not doing it.
Oh,
No.
go ahead. Try again. I
All
had
right, there we
to
are. Okay.
click the extra sub menu.
All right, there we are. Now,
Beautiful.
okay, so I'm not
Make it a little bit bigger. No.
a little bigger,
Yeah.
A lot bigger.
a lot bigger.
My eyes,
Okay.
my eyes are getting weird.
Uh, let's see. How can I move this out? Sorry. All right, more.
That's good. Okay.
Oh, all right.
Oh, you shifted over to the right now,
Now I
Yep.
gotta.
to the center.
Oh shoot. Okay. Now.
Beautiful.
Now you gotta find where it left off. Okay.
Coda Dad. We're talking about Coda Dad.
Yeah, no,
Or
yeah, keep going.
Okay.
Here we are. Once
Oh,
we go back up to even at 80, as a mark of his respect, he refused the horse cart seat to Nagar to bring him to the ashram and walk the 6 miles. Once in Rajasthan desert, Shiryaji was at the extremity of thirst when an old man appeared before him with a water skin and gave it to him to drink. When he had drunk a little and washed death from his eyes and drunk some more and looked up, the man had vanished. At another time, he attempted the terrible 40 days fast in which the aspirant, after drawing a circle on the ground and taking a seat within it, invites and subdues to his will the animal forms of infatuation, greed, lust, and anger. But he gave up after 30 days. A voice told him that the fruits of such austerities were not for him, but that a greater reward would be his. He went to Bombay and stayed with his sister Pila, who with her husband had recently emigrated from Iran to escape the petty, although numerous annoyances and persecutions to which the Mohammedans subjected the Zoroastrian minority. She desired her brother to marry and offered to find him a suitable wife in the community, but the dream of the road and the begging bowl was still between his eyes. However, she persisted, and one day, to be rid of her importunities, Sheriaji, pointing to a little girl skipping along the street, said he would marry her. Pila thought he was joking, but he was adamant, that girl or no one. And when she said, okay, when she told her husband, he was astonished. So okay. Okay. Pila thought that he was joking, but he was adamant. That girl or no one. So she went to see the child's mother, who agreed to the proposal in spite of the great difference in years. When she told her husband, he was astounded, but she said she had given her word and she should respect it. So he gave in, not too ungracefully, for Sheriaji was, after all, reckoned by the community a very good match. So they were betrothed. 9 years later, that is in 1892, when Shirin was 14 and Sheriaji was 39, they were married. In the interval, he thoroughly prepared himself for his new life, taking a job as a gardener and applying himself so well that he became a head gardener. He taught himself to read and write Persian and also Gujarati and Marathi, the principal languages in Bombay. Shirin's father was Dorab, the son of a silk merchant. Against his father's wish, he married Golandan or Rose,
well, I'm done.
Golandan or Rose, and his father disinherited him. He went to India and opened a small restaurant in Pune. Golandan was so beautiful with her rosy cheeks, jet black hair, and large eyes that the people used to say she was well named. She bore 11 children and remained beautiful, slim, and straight-backed until she died at 85. The names of only 6 out of the 11 come into the story. The others had fortune to be kin to God-man, but it was not their share to know him. So their names have already been forgotten. The 6 were Daulat, Shirin, Dinshaw, Rustam, Pila, and Banu. Shortly after their marriage, Shariarji and Shirin went to Pune, where they bought a house in Butler Mohalla, so named because of the number of butlers during British Raj who lived there in Dastur Meher Road. Dastur Meher Road. Many years later, the Mohalla was renamed Meher Mohalla or Meher Place. Because of a pumpkin-shaped stone by the door, the house came to be known as Pumpkin House. 2 years later, that is in 1894 at 5 o'clock in the morning, in the David Sassoon Hospital, the Lord of the World, Avatar Meher Baba was born and was named Merwan. He had been preceded 1 year by Jamshed and was followed by 7 other children. Jal 8 years later, Behram 6 years, Ardashir 6 years, 2 more boys, Jahangir and Shermand, and a sister Franny came in between, but died young. The last child, a girl, Manija, was born in 1918, 4 years after Ardashir. Shirin had no interest in her first child, Jamshed, preferring dolls she could pick up and put down rather than a baby to look after. She was given to Shirin's sister Daulat and her husband Ferdun in adoption. It was Marwan's birth that awakened her motherhood, and it was to Marwan that she gave her whole life and thought. A little while before his birth, Shirinamai on 2 separate nights had dreams. In one, a Hindu goddess rose out of the well near the house and held out her arms for the child, and in the other, multitude looked towards her with great expectancy. Shiriaji said the dreams pretended that the child would become a great light in the world. Gazing at the newborn child, Suryaja remembered the voice in the desert which had told him that the fruits of his austerities would be something quite different from what he had been striving after. It could well be that his fulfillment was to be through his son. Shiraname was not interested in great lights, had they not the light of Prophet Zoroaster to guide their lives. Her Meron would be a great man, looked up to and respected in the community. From the beginning, the child was very active, and while his mother was busy with her housework, would crawl away. So she took to tying one end of a sari around him and the other end to the leg of a table. And one day she found him playing with a cobra. She screamed, and the snake vanished. As soon as he was old enough, he was taken each day to a kindergarten, the Pad Amji Jurarti School, situated in Main Street, now called Mahatma Gandhi Road, where the Madam Pharmacy and Kashmir stores now are. And at 5 years, he went to the Camp Government English School. It was Shiraname's ambition.
Shireen, it's Shireen Mai. That's his mom, Shireen.
Anyway, does anybody else want to continue?
Well, we could stop here at I believe this is
Where is
the
it?
top of page 28, right? So
Read it again.
Shireen Mai.
Green Mai's ambition that his son should become a great man, but there was little love and affection for the child. Once, because of a bowel weakness, a weakness he was to carry all his life, she beat him. And Shariaji, when he heard of it, said, "You don't know whom you have beaten." Because of her harshness, The boy used to spend much of his time with Sharina May's sister Pila, who lived near nearby. This angered Shireen May, and she forbade him to go to his aunt's. It is not known how Shiraji earned a living during these first years of guardianship of Godman, but after some time they moved to a new building, a quarter gate, where he opened a tea shop over which they lived. It is still a tea shop and has been named Cafe Shariar, but whether to honor Shariarji or not is not known. The shop was successful and he opened a second one nearly opposite the Jain Mandir in the cantonment. During the following years, at different times, he also had 5 toddy shops in Sashpur Street, Mund, Baramati on the Shalapur Road, Talagan, 25 or 30 miles from Pune, to which he moved for the period of occupancy, and Shorpari, a suburb outside the cantonment. Jai Baba.
Oh, is this the end of it?
Yeah.
Must be.
That was long.
Good. Okay, good. I'm glad we went to the